The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance as we have the presentation of colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Color guard? Should I call him? I ask everyone present to please repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of any clerk, please remain standing while the color guard exits. Reading of the Journal.
In the Senate, Sunday, January 10th, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Saturday, January 9th, was read and approved. On motion, Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly, messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator DeFrancisco?
Do these first? Yes, I have several motions. Madam President, I move that the following bills be discharged from their respective committees and be recommitted with instructions to strike the enacting clause. Senate Bill 5809B by Senator Ritchie. I'd also request that this bill be discharged from the respective committee and be recommitted with instructions to strike the enacting clause. Senator Lanza's Bill S3848. And I move that the following bills be discharged from the respective committee, be recommitted with instructions to strike the enacting clause as well. Senator Marchione 1196, Senate 1198, and 5839.
So ordered.
Thank you. Could you please recognize Senator Gianaris for motions?
Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Rivera, I move the following bill be discharged from its respective committee and recommitted with instructions to strike the enacting clause, Senate Bill 381-A. And on behalf of Senator Addabbo, I move that the following bills be discharged from their respective committees and be recommitted with instructions to strike the enacting clause, Senate Bills 2499, 3006, 3207, 3958, and 4539.
So ordered. Senator DeFrancisco.
Would you now recognize Senator Valesky?
Senator Valesky.
Thank you, Madam President. I move at this time that the following bill be discharged from its respective committee and be recommitted with instructions to strike the enacting clause. Senator Carlucci's Bill 5974A.
So ordered. Senator DeFrancisco.
Yes, can we now take a privilege resolution number 3237 by Senator Laval and Senator Seward? Please read it. It's in its entirety, and then call on each of those senators, if you would, please.
Secretary will read.
Resolution number 3237 by Senators Laval and Seward, commending the Civil Air Patrol New York Wing Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10 Color Guard upon the occasion of presenting the colors at the start of the session of the New York State Senate. Whereas, it is the sense of this legislative body to recognize that the quality and character of life in the communities across New York State are reflective of the concern and dedicated efforts of those organizations and individuals who are devoted to the welfare of the community and its citizenry. And whereas, attendant to such concern in full accord with its long-standing traditions, this legislative body is justly proud to commend the Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10 Color Guard from the Civil Air Patrol New York Wing upon the occasion of presenting the colors at the start of the session of the New York State Senate, to be held at the New York State Capitol in Albany, New York. And whereas the Civil Air Patrol enjoys a proud legacy of selfless sacrifice and service to the country and community that spans decades. The organization was born 1 week prior to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, and whose members serving in World War II were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. And whereas thousands of volunteer members of the Civil Air Patrol answered America's call to national service and sacrifice by accepting and performing critical wartime missions. And whereas on July 1, 1946, President Harry S. Truman signed Public Law 476, incorporating the Civil Air Patrol as a benevolent, nonprofit organization. On May 26, 1948, Congress passed Public Law 557, permanently establishing the Civil Air Patrol as the auxiliary of the new United States Air Force. And whereas 3 primary mission areas were set forth at the inception of the Civil Air Patrol: aerospace education, cadet programs, and emergency services. And whereas today the Civil Air Patrol handles 90% of inland search and rescue missions, with approximately 75 lives saved each year, its members are generally the first on the scene, transmitting aerial digital images, along with providing disaster relief and emergency services following natural and man-made disasters, including such events as 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Lee, Texas and Oklahoma wildfires, tornadoes in the south and central United States, North Dakota flash flooding, and the October 2006 earthquake in Hawaii, as well as humanitarian and homeland security missions along the United States and Mexico border. And whereas, in response to the devastating effects of Hurricane Sandy, the Civil Air Patrol's New York Wing promptly reacted by flying 373 damage assessment sorties and providing 143,360 aerial photographs to New York disaster relief organizations, FEMA, and the Army Corps of Engineers, providing air transportation throughout the affected region for disaster response teams, deploying 30 volunteers to assist with shelter operations conducted by the New York City Office of Emergency Management, and installing 40 volunteers to assist the Red Cross with the logistics of relief supplies. And whereas, in addition, Civil Air Patrol members are dedicated to counter-drug reconnaissance and to teaching a new generation about aerospace and its impact on our future. Its cadet program ensures our youth receive the finest leadership training the nation has to offer. And whereas, the members from the Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10 Color Guard Civil Air Patrol New York Wing include Derek Proffitt, Cadet Captain; Michael Russo, Cadet Second Lieutenant; Allison Shumway, Cadet Chief Master Sergeant; Kevin Smith, Cadet Chief Master Sergeant; Kyle Velez, Cadet Chief Master Sergeant; Molinelli Nick, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant; Nicholas Volpe, Cadet Master Sergeant; Andrew Balistreri, Lieutenant Colonel; Joseph Volpe, Captain; Andreas Nienz, First Lieutenant; and New York Wing Staff, Stephen Perda, Colonel; Thomas Corello, Lieutenant Colonel; Andrew Little, Lieutenant Colonel; Patrick McGee, Lieutenant Colonel; Gerald Marquetos, Lieutenant Colonel; and Benjamin Nodar, Lieutenant Colonel. And whereas the Civil Air Patrol makes a huge impact each and every day, going above and beyond to make a profound difference in America's communities. And whereas this occasion presents a unique opportunity for this legislative body to recognize and pay tribute to the members of the Civil Air Patrol New York Wing Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10 Color Guard. And whereas it is the sense of this legislative body that when organizations of such no names and accomplishments are brought to our attention, they should be recognized by all the citizens of this great Empire State. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this legislative body pause its deliberations to commend the Civil Air Patrol New York Wing Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10 Color Guard and its members upon the occasion of presenting the colors at the start of the session of the New York State Senate. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution suitably engrossed be transmitted to Colonel Stephen Perda, New York Wing Commander, Civil Air Patrol, and the aforementioned members of the Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10 Color Guard Civil Air Patrol New York Wing.
Senator Lavelle on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I certainly, with the entire Senate, want to thank the cadets for coming today, for presenting the colors, and also want to thank you for your service that is called upon by the federal, state, and local agencies, whether it be Homeland Security or disaster relief or drug interdiction missions. We want to thank you for that service. Obviously, the work that you do requires very special qualities to be a successful cadet, and once achieved, these qualities assist you being successful in life today and in the future. One of the things I came across was the pledge that you make, and I just want to recite it. I pledge to serve faithfully on the Civil Air Patrol Cadet Program, and that I will attend meetings regularly, participate actively in unit activities, obey my officers, wear my uniform properly, and advance my education and training rapidly to prepare myself to be of service to my community and to my nation. And we can't thank you enough for the responsibility that you take in making sure that your local community is protected and the work that you do. Again, hopefully, this will put you in good stead in your future life, and we wish you good luck in the future, but we thank you today for your service, and thank you again for coming.
Members wishing to be heard on the resolution? Hearing none, the question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Mr. Floor Leader.
Madam President, there's another privileged resolution at the desk, number 3238 by Senator Seward. Can you just read the short title and recognize Senator Seward?
Secretary will read.
Legislative Resolution Number 3238 by Senator Seward, commending Lieutenant Colonel Andrew J. Little for his many years of service to the New York State Civil Air Patrol.
Senator Seward on the resolution.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I'm very pleased to stand in support of this resolution. You know, we have a wonderful new tradition here in the Senate of one of the early days of our session to have the Civil Air Patrol cadets coming here to present the colors. And I'm very sorry that Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Little, who was a constituent of mine, who was very key in initiating this tradition a few years ago, is not able to be with us today for health reasons. But I'm very pleased to sponsor this resolution commending Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Little. You know, we mainly think of the Civil Air Patrol of being a great assistance to New Yorkers, the New York wing here in New York at a time when we need the most, whether it's a search and rescue mission or a time of a natural disaster or even a man-made disaster. The Civil Air Patrol is always there working on behalf of New Yorkers and helping to protect us, fulfilling important roles in most recent years from the disasters of 9/11 to Hurricane Sandy. Whatever it is, the Civil Air Patrol is there to be of assistance to New Yorkers. But one of the additional services that they provide is sponsoring the cadet program, which is a wonderful program which is designed for young adults and is aimed at helping them to develop essential life skills and to instill values, such values as teamwork, personal integrity, leadership, respect, self-confidence, and the list goes on. All great qualities that will assist these cadets throughout their entire life. And this resolution before us in honoring Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Little, who, as I said earlier, was so instrumental in bringing the cadets to us a few years ago for the presentation of the colors. He himself has had a distinguished career as a New Yorker. He graduated from the New York State Ranger School of the New York State College of Forestry. After graduation, he attended the New York State Police Academy here in Albany, and in 1966, he successfully completed the New York State Instructor Development Program. He went on to serve his country as a member of the United States Air Force. And during his time in the military, he graduated from many Air Force colleges, completing various courses which would enable him to become a strong leader in our state. And throughout the years, Andy Little held numerous positions in various fields, utilizing his vast education and experience. In 1999, Andy Little became affiliated with the Civil Air Patrol, holding the title of United States Air Force Auxiliary Lieutenant Colonel. And throughout his tenure, he acted as the government relations advisor to both the New York wing and the entire Northeast region. And I'm very sorry he's not able to be with us today for health reasons, but we, through this resolution that we are adopting today, this body sends to Lieutenant Colonel Little our very best wishes and our deep respect and admiration for his many years of service, both as a New Yorker and particularly his service through the Civil Air Patrol. Madam President, I vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Griffo on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to join Senator Seward and Senator Lavelle in first commending Lieutenant Colonel Little. As Senator Seward indicated, he has had an exceptional career, and he's just an extraordinary individual who devoted himself to our country and the state. I also want to welcome all the members of the Civil Air Patrol that are here today. We appreciate that dedication and that commitment and service that you have to our nation, to the state, and to all of the communities from which you come, because this is an important position and role that you have undertaken willingly, and it will position you well for any future endeavors, and we look to you to be leaders of the future. Also to all of the military leaders who are here today, particularly to Lieutenant Colonel Marquetos from my district and Wing Commander Colonel Steve Perda, thank you very much for your leadership and your involvement. It is so important and essential, not only for the Civil Air Patrol, but for what we all do here in this legislature and as a community, state as a whole. So I want to thank you that. And Colonel Perda, he does double duty, Lieutenant Governor. Not only is he serving our country, but he's a member, an employee of the state of New York working at SUNY Poly. So we appreciate his good work on state service as well as at the Civil Air Patrol. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hazel Thompson on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to congratulate Lieutenant Colonel Little, but also to state for the record that as a former Civil Air Patrol cadet, I'm very proud of this organization. Also, I'm very proud of the state of New York that it has finally put them into the budget. And as a recognition of the work and the importance of what they do. So I want to commend each of the cadets and certainly send my regards and healing message to Lieutenant Colonel that he wasn't able to be with us today. And thank you to the sponsors of this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no other members, the question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Mr. Floor Leader.
Madam President, I'd like to call an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
Rules Committee, room 332 of the Capitol of the Senate, still stand at ease.
Senate will come to order.
Could we please return to reports of standing committees for the report of the Rules Committee?
The Senate will return to reports of standing committees. There is a report of the Rules Committee. Senate Secretary will read.
Senator Flanagan from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 1976A by Senator Gold, enact amend the tax law. Senate 2722B by Senator Griffo, enact amend the legislative law. Senate 5507 by Senator Robach, enact to amend the state finance law. Senate 6377 by Senator Flanagan, enact to amend the education law. Senate 6378 by Senator Martins, enact to amend the state finance law. Senate 6379 by Senator Frawley, enact to amend the business corporation law. Senate 6380 by Senator Carlucci, enact to amend the corrections law. Senate 6381 by Senator Little, enact to repeal certain provisions of the arts and cultural affairs law. Senate 6382 by Senator Marchone, enact to amend the state law. Senate 6383 by Senator Flanagan, enact to amend the general business law. Senate 6384 by Senator Amador, enact to amend the social services law. Senate 6385 by Senator Laval, an act to amend the real property tax law. Senate 6386 by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend Chapter 584 of the laws of 2015. Senate 6387 by Senator Martins, an act to amend the state finance law. Senate 6388 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the general city law. Senate 6389 by Senator Felder, an act to amend the Family Court Act. Senate 6390 by Senator Murphy, an act to amend the social services law. Senate 6391 by Senator Marcelino, an act to amend Chapter 672 of the laws of 1993. Senate 6392 by Senator Little, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 6393 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 6394 by Senator Ranzenhofer, an act to amend the public authorities law. Senate 6395 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law. Senate 6396 by Senator Larkin, an act to amend the navigation law. Senate 6397 by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend the mental hygiene law. Senate 6398 by Senator Seward, an act to amend Chapter 412 of the laws of 2015. Senate 6399 by Senator Ritchie, an act to amend Chapter 587 of the laws of 2015. Senate 6420 by Senator Croce, an act to amend the executive law. Senate 6421 by Senator Funke, an act to amend the public health law. Senate 6422 by Senator Avella, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law. Senate 6423 by Senator Ranzenhofer, an act to amend the real property tax law. Senate 6424 by Senator Bonasek, an act to amend Chapter 510 of the laws of 2013. Senate 6425 by Senator Croce, an act to amend general municipal law. Senate 6426 by Senator Serrano, an act to amend Chapter 899 of the laws of 1984. Senate 6427 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the real property tax law. Senate 6428 by Senator Avella, an act to amend the general business law. And Senate 6429 by Senator Seward, an act to amend the insurance law and Chapter 581 of the laws of 2015. All bills reported direct to third reading.
Senator DeFrancisco.
I move to accept the Rules Committee agenda.
The Committee on Rules report is before the House. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The report is accepted. Senator DeFrancisco.
Yes, now I'd like to go to calendar number 5, that's Senate 1976A Golden.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 5 by Senator Golden, Senate Print 1976A, an act to amend the tax law.
Lay it aside.
Excuse me, the controversial reading of that bill.
Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 5 by Senator Golden, Senate Print 1976A, an act to amend the tax law.
Senator Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, this is the same bill we've seen and I believe passed in this House, I don't even know how many times now, since we tend to pass bills over and over again that as one House bills. I continue to object to this bill. It would be establishing a radically higher tax deduction for a certain form of philanthropic giving, leading the state of New York with a situation where philanthropic giving for most nonprofit purposes would have X percentage for tax deductibility, and for this purpose having something like 10, 20, 30 times that tax deductibility. So as a precedent, it's a dangerous one of an uneven treatment under the law for charitable giving. Second, it actually moves taxpayers' dollars away from the state to determine where they ought to go and into selected private educational facilities directed by the donor. I don't think that's how we ought to fund education in the state of New York with taxpayers' dollars. It challenges a series of potential constitutional questions about uses of public monies for religious purposes, which have never been fully addressed in all the different debates that we have had in this House. I suspect this won't be the last time I see this bill this year. I hope before the next time I see it, we try something called the committee process where it goes through appropriate committees. I would think this bill ought to go through, at minimum, the Investigations Committee because it's a tax bill, the Education Committee because it directly impacts education, and the Finance Committee because it's taking of state taxpayer money. So maybe we will have committees evaluate this bill. Maybe this is even the kind of bill we ought to be requiring a hearing on because it is such a controversial topic that has been floating around now for several years. So I'm going to vote no, Mr. President, and urge my colleagues to take seriously my challenge that we function like a legislative body ought to. It's only day one. Well, I guess if you count last week, it's day two. We have time to do a committee process on important complex bills. We have time to do public hearings. This bill cries out for exactly that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Kruger.